And then when you do all of that, sometimes it sends you in the wrong direction, and you've got to pull back from that direction and then start again. So it's hard. It's hard. So what you need, I think, is someone that can, if you can find someone that has the knowledge, has the experience, and has the performance, like, so let's say a mentor, if you can find someone like that and they're willing to teach, that takes a long time. Time is money.
คุณเดวิดที่มาที่ไปของเขาเป็นอย่างไรเขาคือใครเห็นบอกว่าหลายคนนี่ทึ่งแล้วก็ต้องการให้เขาสอนอย่างมากเลยทีเดียว
My name is David Vassallo, and I've been doing this for about 35 years, so quite a long period of time. Would you like to know what my experience in doing this?
Yep.
Yeah. I started out as an accountant many years ago. From being accounting, I moved into funds management. Also, I did futures. From being in the futures industry, I then moved into a stockbroker called JB Weir & Son, which at the time was Australia's largest stockbroker and oldest stockbroker. It was well over 150 years old. Since I left, JB Weir has been bought out by Goldman Sachs. So it was a large business. So most of my work was in those days with institutions where I'd write research, give advice in terms of what I thought the markets were doing at the time, mainly in Australia, but also looking at the larger macro side of things, which would be looking at gold, silver, what the S&P was doing. But certainly the equity side of things was Australian based. From doing that, I moved and decided to do some trading at home for about 3 years. So I know what retail people go through when it boils down to trading. It's a very lonely business. If you're working from home, not easy. From there, I moved back into an office where I continued trading. Also, I was asked to do research. So I started doing research. And then on top of that, I was invited to do seminars. So from that, we had a fairly reasonably sized business where we would go around Australia teaching people to do what I do. So I've learned a lot from retail to institutional, and in the last couple of years I moved back doing institutional research, and today what I do is basically work with regard to hedge funds and professional money managers. That's where my main concentration lies.
ถ้าถามถึงเรื่องของความเก่งกาจหรือว่าเรื่องของการที่เขาประสบความสำเร็จอะไรคือสิ่งที่เขามองว่าเขาประสบความสำเร็จตรงนี้
It's just doing this for a long period of time. It's trial and error. No one's ever taught me. But if you can get a good teacher, it can cut years and years off your learning. So I did it the hard way back in those days, and it was basically reading books, trial and error. I worked at a place where they would pay me to actually study, so I was very fortunate and lucky back in those days. That was JB Weir. So that is sort of the direction, and that's how I started in terms of looking at markets, and it's just been a growing passion for a long time. Something I enjoy. I find it a challenge, and it's the best game in the world.
ทีนี้ถามเลยฮะว่าเขาเข้ามาสู่วงการตลาดทุนได้อย่างไรแล้วทำไมเขาถึงเลือกที่จะเป็นนักลงทุนประเภทไหนอย่างไร
So how I got into this was by accident. I'm an accountant. I was working in a fund management role, and this is my early days, and a friend, or actually my boss, would sit at his desk and open the top drawer and look into it and then close it. Now this went on for a few months, and I'm wondering, what is he doing? And what he was doing in the days, and this is not going back hundreds of years ago, but in the old days, if you want to use that term, the stock exchange in Australia had a book, and in this book it had charts on stocks, and that's the only way you could get charts back then, apart from drawing them by hand. Now the reason why he's closing the drawer and opening the drawer was our boss was a chartered accountant, and he didn't believe in charts. He believed in fundamentals. So that started my interest in charts. So I then bought some books, Edwards McGee, and a number of others, and I looked at all of that and thought, well, this is interesting. So it grabbed me straight away, and I wanted to learn more. When I left that company, I worked for a futures broker, and the person that was running it there, the head of research, was an Elliott Wave man. So he used to look at Elliott Wave and had all these charts, used to draw them all by hand. I looked at it and thought, yeah, I don't know, I think it's a bit rubbish, a little bit of rubbish. So I started reading Elliott Wave, and then I became an Elliott Wave person for about 5 or 6 years, and then it just kept rolling on from there. And what I've really done over all my life is studied, looked at different methods from Gann theory, Elliott Wave theory, and I've taken all of that and now I've pulled it to pieces, and I've taken out of all of that theory what I think works and what works for me. So over the whole period of time I've built a method around bits and pieces of a lot of methods which I believe works. I know it works because our performance has been extremely good and people want to listen to what I've got to say at hedge fund level, so I must be doing something right. So that's the course of study that I've taken, and you're getting 35 years of experience in doing that. So with people, it's a hard course to take because it takes a long time to understand. So what I said earlier, if you can find someone that has the knowledge, has the experience, and has the performance, like so let's say a mentor, if you can find someone like that and they're willing to teach, that takes a long time. Time is money. Time is precious to people. Even in our fast-paced world, it's important. And then there's time, and then there's the money in doing all of that. And then when you do all of that, sometimes it sends you in the wrong direction, and you've got to pull back from that direction and then start again. So it's hard. It's hard. So what you need, I think, is someone that can show you not necessarily shortcuts, but certainly what works for them, and see whether that works for you. So that's the course I've taken with regard to what I do. And to this day, I still study. I still look for things that not necessarily are new. I look for things that actually enhance what I do. And for example, in the last 3 or 4 years, I've started using median lines, or some people call them Andrew's pitchfork, and I've found that really helps with what I do. It hasn't changed what I do. What it does, it just adds another layer that will create confidence in terms of the trade. So still learning, never stop learning, continue to practice, and practice every day.
แล้วถ้าเกิดว่าให้เขานิยามตัวเองนะฮะคุณเดวิดเป็นนักลงทุนประเภทไหนทางเทคนิคมีหลายนักลงทุนบางคนเป็นอิเลดเวฟบางคนเป็นตัวของฟิโบนัชชีคุณเดวิดเป็นนักลงทุนทางเทคนิคประเภทไหน
I don't use indicators, so I don't use MACDs, I don't use stochastics, RSIs. I do use Andrew's pitchfork, but I don't look at that as an indicator. It's more it actually helps forecast direction of price. So I don't look at any indicators. In actual fact, I don't even draw trend lines or use median lines. What I do is I actually analyse price and understanding what I call the flow of price. I trade trends mainly, so if the market is going up, I'm a buyer when the market pulls back, and when the market's declining in a downtrend, I'm selling rallies. Now, where I buy and sell the market, very difficult for most people to do, because if the market's going up and then all of a sudden the market starts turning down, I'm looking to buy, most people are looking to sell. And I can show you, and very shortly if you like, the way people trade markets and buy and sell breakouts is a very quick way of losing a lot of money. So when it comes to the way I look at the market, it's just over many years, as I mentioned earlier, understanding how price flows from uptrends to downtrends, understanding when a trend starts, what does a trend look like. Now, most people don't even understand what a trend looks like. They think it's just higher highs and higher lows if you're going up, but it's not. It's more than that. So it's just taking all of what I've learned and then building into this flow of what I call a flow of price. It's a philosophy of how price works. It's just not looking at an indicator, drawing a couple of lines and saying that's trading. It's not. Professional traders, people that understand how markets work, have a very strong understanding of market principles, of why when price gets to a certain point, does it stop and come back? Or where you think you should be selling, you sell, but the market goes back up. And then people say there's no logic in trading markets, but there is. If you like, I can show you. I'll show you what I'm looking at. This is quite amazing. The reason why it's quite amazing is because this is the S&P 2007-2008 when the market was falling. Now, if you're a breakout trader and sold every major low that occurred in that decline, you lost. Now, that's hard to believe when you've got one of the biggest falls in stock market history. You're shorting the market, selling the market, believing it's going to fall, and you short by selling and then buying back at a lower price. By doing that, you lost a lot of money. And you sit back and you're saying, this is collapsing, yet I'm losing money, shorting it, selling it. So one of the principles I talk about is this failed breakout area. You don't want to be buying when price breaks below a low. You don't want to be buying when price breaks above a high. You want to be already short or long before it ever does that.